Hey there, welcome to CodeChef. Today we are going to be discussing the project JSON to CSV converter from our course Java Projects for Beginners, where we have 10 different Java projects from which beginners can get familiar with Java. So let's begin. So in this project we'll be building a simple program which can convert CSV files into JSON files and JSON files into CSV files. Now coming to the flow for this particular project. First, you need to accept input from the user as to whether they want to convert from CSV to JSON or from JSON to CSV. And if user wants to convert from CSV to JSON, we should ask for input CSV file, and we should ask for the output JSON file name, and we should read from the input CSV file, convert it to JSON format, and store it in the new JSON file. And if the data is empty, we should give an error message saying data is empty, or else we should continue. We will do the same for converting from JSON to CSV. Now, in the first subtask of the JSON CSV converter project, we are going to be working on the JSON file writing part. That is only the write JSON function. The way this project works is we're going to divide each functionality into 4 different functions. It is read CSV, read JSON, write CSV, and write JSON. So let's say I want to convert from CSV to JSON. Then first I'm going to call read CSV, and then I'm going to call write JSON. I'll do the opposite for JSON to CSV. And the objectives for this particular subtask, we have to update the write JSON function, and that write JSON function should have input validation. So we're going to return false immediately if input data is empty or if data has less than 2 rows. And we're going to write the JSON conversion logic. We're going to use the first row by calling data.get0 as the JSON keys. So keys are basically column names. So the first row will be column names. And then we're going to convert subsequent rows into JSON objects. And we're going to format the output with 2-space indentation for readability. And coming to the file operations, we should write the JSON structure to the specified file path, and we should use the file writer class for the file operations. And we need to make sure we can handle errors too. Coming to the code, we're going to have a boolean function write JSON, which is going to take the file path as a string input and an array of arrays called data. So the reason why we've used an array of arrays over here is because we do not have a CSV array object like we have a JSON array object in Java. That's why we're going to be reading it as an array of arrays, and it's easier to access using an array of arrays. Now, if this array of arrays or a CSV file is empty or it's less than 2, then we're going to print out no data to write, and we're going to return false. And here we have a try and catch block. So what is try and catch? So try and catch is basically how we handle errors in Java. That is, we're going to try whatever code is present in the try block, and if we catch an error, we're going to perform whatever code is present in the catch block. In the try block, first we're going to create a new array of strings called headers, which will contain the first row in the array of arrays data, which is basically the column names. So headers will have an array of all the column names. And now here we are creating a new JSON array object called JSON array. So JSON array objects are an easy way in which we can store JSON file data in arrays. Now we have a for loop which is going to iterate through the entire CSV file. In the first line we're getting the row for the current iteration using data.getI. So this will basically contain the first array present in the array of arrays, that is the actual data and not the column names. And after that we're going to initialize a new JSON object over here called obj. And once again we're going to run a loop to iterate through column names this time. So first, if you notice, we're going to be iterating through the total number of rows, and then after that we're going to be iterating through the total number of columns, because headers.length is going to give the number of columns. So this loop over here is to iterate through the rows, and this loop over here is to iterate through the columns. And after writing a loop for iterating through the rows and the columns, here we're going to put both the name of the column and the value present in that particular row and column together in the JSON object. Because if you remember, in a JSON array object, the way it's going to look is we will have both the column name and the data for that particular column. So we're going to put both of that in the JSON object which we initialized earlier. And finally, we're going to put it in the JSON array using JSON array.put obj. And after iterating through every row and column present in the CSV file, so over here we're going to create a new file writer object which is going to open the file present at this particular file path. And if the file is not present at the file path, we're going to create a file at that file path. To that file path, we're going to write the JSON array which we got above, and we're going to convert it into text using JSON array to string. That is, we're going to basically convert it into a text file, and we're going to convert that JSON array which we got above into a text file using JSON array to string. And we're given 2 over here because they've asked us to give an output with 2-space indentation. And after that, we're going to close this file writer object and we're going to return true to the main function. And in case we caught an error while performing any of these functions, we're going to go to the catch block and print out failed to write a JSON and return false. Coming to the main function, here I'm initializing a new array of arrays called sample data. And just for the sample data, I'm going to be adding the column names first, and then I'm going to add 2 rows of data. After that, I'm going to take a new scanner to take input from the user as to what particular file path they want to write the JSON file. That is, if you're running locally, we can give a file path, or we can give a file name for now. And over here, we are taking input from the user and we're storing it in the string JSON file. And the reason we're given .rem is to remove any white space which might be present at the start or end of the input given by the user. And if write JSON file sample data, that is, if it returns true, we're going to print out data returned successfully. And if it returns false, we will be simply printing out what is present over here. Let's just run this code once. Let's say abc.json. So you can see I've gotten data returned successfully. Let's just submit this code once. So we passed all 3 test cases. Let's move on to the next subtask.